Hey guys, this is Yoda. This will be my Vengeance Demon Hunter gameplay guide for Season 1 or within Mythic Plus. There's another video we made talking about the build, like talents, different hero talents, whatever trinkets, stats, whatever. This video is going to focus primarily on gameplay. First, we're going to talk about Felscarred. So with Felscarred, whenever you meta for Feldev, you get Empowered Soul Cleave. Or whenever you Feldev, you get Empowered Soul Cleave and Spirit Bomb. Whenever you meta, you get Empowered those two plus Sigil of Flame, Immortal, and Feldev. Generally what that means is you want to be using your empowered abilities to proc Demon Surge toward the beginning of your meta, especially if you're overlapping it with Fiery Brand. One question is, how often do you overlap with Fiery Brand? I would say for damage, you always want to overlap. It's kind of a weird dynamic, especially with this talent build. You're kind of playing like a defensive uptime strategy. So if Fiery Brand is on like low charges or low like cooldowns, like you have one charge, but then the other one's not coming back for a while, you may want to consider holding it during meta, so you have higher uptime on Fire Brand. Also note that we are playing Spirit Bomb, but most of our damage is coming from Soul Cleaves. Spirit Bomb is used primarily to proc Demon Surge. If you do find yourself at 5 souls and you want to play for damage, you can just push Spirit Bomb instead of Soul Cleave. 2+ targets, but generally that is going to be a healing loss because we're losing the soul gen from our tier set, and we're also losing 1 frailty stack on the main target. So generally, I just use Soul Cleave instead of Spirit Bomb unless I'm proccing Demon Surge, or if it's a really big pull, like First Pull Necrotic Wake, for example. Since we are playing a Soul Cleave rotation, we are prioritizing Fury, which means we're also doing a Fury dump rotation, so we're prioritizing Fellblade, Immora, and Sigil Flame off cooldown. And we are also going to, instead of like 1-2-1-2 with Refractor Soul Cleave, we're going to build as much Fury as possible, then spend all of our Fury at the same time with Soul Cleave. This is so that our frailties are like amping each other and stacking multiplicatively. So we will demo the opener real quick. This is with Fiery Brand. If you don't have Fiery Brand, then, or you don't want to use it, then just don't use it in the opener. So we're going to pre-Sigil Flame, Fellblade, Immora, Feldev, and Fiery Brand, then proc all Demon Surges, then meta and proc all the Demon Surges again, build the 5 for Spirit Bomb, Soul Cleave, Immo, Feldev, and then since we're like, this is like when I would consider our stable, you can consider using Decree or Hunt here. Other than that, we're like building to full Fury and then try to spend it all at the same time, while using Immo and Feldev and Sigil Flame off cooldown. Once Feldev runs out, once meta runs out, you get another free Feldev, so you re-Feldev. We're still using Sigil of Flame, Immora, and Fellblade off cooldown, and then basically just build the full again, and then spend all your Fury on Soul Cleaves. Defensively, you do kind of want to go like Feldev into Fiery Brand, into Feldev again, into Fiery Brand again. So you notice this Fire Brand is running out. We are going to be a little bit weak here for like 6 seconds until Feldev's back. Then we Feldev. Then after the Feldev, it'll be Fire Brand again. Also note with Demon Spikes, generally you want to be using spikes either with Brand or with like no Brand and no Feldev. Try not to overlap it with meta other than like 1 time per pull. Then once this Brand's out, we would be kind of low on defensives. Here's where you would either hope the pack is dead, or you would kite, or you could just drop Darkness, or you could use an external there. So that's kind of how it looks like for Felscarred. Note that we did overlap Fiery Brand and meta in the opener here because we obviously start with 2 charges. If you don't have 2 charges, or if the charge is like 10 seconds left up from coming up, probably don't send it. Obviously you want to do it for damage, but for survivability, you kind of are reliant on having high defensive uptime, so using 2 defensives together is not good for that. So that's Felscarred. Next we will talk about Aldrachi. With Aldrachi, your main goal is to be having super high uptime on a buff called Thrill of the Fight. Basically this says whenever you do your sequence, the last button in the sequence gives you the Thrill of the Fight buff for 10 seconds. So we will show you the sequence real quick. So with Aldrachi, whenever you hunt or consume 20 souls, it changes your Throw Glaive to Reaver's Glaive. So the sequence is Reaver's Glaive, Fracture, Soul Cleave. So also note, you can push like a bunch of random buttons here, anything that's not Soul Cleave, and it won't proc the Thrill of the Fight. So if you like have Thrill of the Fight running and you are about to proc another one, you can just wait till the end and then finally do Soul Cleave and it procs the buff. Talk a little bit about talents here. Notice how we're not playing Spirit Bomb, which means you don't really need to think about Spirit Bomb, obviously. It's just Fracture and Soul Cleave. We are also playing for souls. This Reaver's Glaive procs when you consume 20 souls, and we're playing basically for max uptime on Thrill of the Fight. Is like pretty much the only thing we care about with Aldrachi. So instead of doing a rotation where you like spend a couple fractures and then dump all of your fury, which is what we did in Season 4 with Soul Cleaves, and also what we do with Felscarred. With Aldrachi, we're caring way more about putting Fracture on cooldown. So basically, you still want to prioritize Immora because it's like refreshing your buffs and also giving you a lot of souls from Fallout. But other than that, Fellblade isn't used too much. Sigil of Flame is mainly used to like maintain a parry buff and not just like use off cooldown. So our main goal is actually to keep Fracture on cooldown, and then also not overcap Fury, since it's better to like Fracture and then Soul Cleave, Fracture, Soul Cleave, and instead of like Fracture, Fracture, overcap Fury, and then Soul Cleave, right? So that is something we're going to be considering with Aldrachi. Also, defensively, we're playing Illuminated Sigils, and we also have like a lot more self-healing, because mainly because of Soulmonger and Incorruptible Spirit. And also we're playing like a soul rotation instead of a frailty rotation. So we're gonna have way more souls in general. Basically what that means is we're able to survive packs with less cooldowns. Like we don't need necessarily to have meta or brand. You can kind of just survive with Sigil of Flame plus spikes for a lot of packs. For tough packs, or if you haven't have downtime, that's when you want to be using like meta or darkness to fill in. So we're not going to go too much into the defensive rotation. We're just going to talk mostly about how to maintain real of the fight. So obviously the first thing you can do is to proc Reaver's Glaive is use the Hunt. And it gives you Reaver's Glaive. So you use Reaver's Glaive, Fracture, Soul Cleave. You always want to Fracture first, Soul Cleave second, by the way, even on single target, which is kind of weird design-wise, but that's how it is. Then you just keep building souls. When this is Art of the Glaive, this is the buff I'm tracking. When it gets to 20, the next time you consume a soul, gives you a Reaver's Glaive. One trick you can do is, like, let's say you're fighting the end of a pack. Let's say this mob has like 20% health and this is the last guy in the pack. You can just not throw your Reaver's Glaive and keep building. And your Art of the Glaive stacks will continue to go up even if you don't throw your Reaver's Glaive. It can even go past 20, you can go up to like whatever you want. So for instance, you could do this at the end of a pull or even the end of a boss. Then like pretty much for the rest of the key, you can have like a Reaver's Glaive available. So for instance, let's say we ended a pack, we built up 27 stacks somehow, right, on a pull. And then next time we're going into a pack, we start with Reaver's Glaive, do our normal opener like Feldev or whatever. Vigil of Flame. Then we Soul Cleave. Now we have Reaver's Glaive available and this buff is already up, right? So there's a couple things we need to avoid here in order to not waste our like massive buildup of stacks. So the first thing is don't hunt if Reaver's Glaive is available. If you use the hunt and Reaver's Glaive is available, it doesn't give you extra stacks. It just like wastes the hunt. So don't do that. And the number two thing is don't throw Reaver's Glaive if Thrill of the Fight has like more than 3 seconds left. If you do happen to make that mistake, you can just like only Fracture and then not Soul Cleave until you actually want to refresh the buff. So what that looks like is we throw Reaver's Glaive, then we'll hunt at some point. So we'll hunt here, and then you'd be like, oh shoot, I accidentally threw Reaver's Glaive. You can just like Fracture and then waste some time doing other stuff, and then Soul Cleave to reproc the buff. So the two biggest mistakes are, number one, don't override the buff early. Number two, don't hunt with Reaver's Glaives active. And then also kind of number three, don't like throw a Reaver's Glaive and then proc the sequence if the pack is about to die, because then you can like build up a massive like horde of stacks, and then you can just use those stacks like to keep your buff up throughout the rest of the dungeon. Another mistake I was making early on is I was holding the hunt. You want to be hunting off cooldown unless specifically Reaver's Glaive is off cooldown. Like, don't worry if you have like high stacks, you can still use the hunt. The only thing you need to worry about is if you randomly generate or eat a soul while you're casting the hunt and suddenly get a Reaver's Glaive proc, then you will accidentally make that mistake. So just watch out for that. Be ready to cancel cast the hunt if needed. So that is Aldrachi. Also, just to answer some questions about Spirit Bomb, I believe it is a damage gain, at least on my sim, it was a damage gain to play Spirit Bomb at like 8+ targets, and anything below that, it was not worth even talenting it because you have to lose Ascending Flame and Soul Furnace. If you are talented in a Spirit Bomb, you would push the button on any number of targets, 2+. Although some people were saying you need to play Spirit Bomb because you're generating so many souls and you can only spend them fast enough with Spirit Bomb. That is a myth. Anytime you go over 5 souls, your character will just automatically consume them. As you can see here, we will generate 5 souls. So we're at 5 souls. Now we're going to generate them with Legion Decree. You see we're still at 5, but then our Art of the Glaive stacks went up because we consume souls, and we also got a shield from Soulmonger, all that. So you still consume souls even if you don't like use a spender, as long as you're consuming above 5. The only actual thing Spirit Bomb would do in terms of soul consumption is if like you could consume your current soul reserve if you really want to very quickly, which you cannot do without playing it. So that is Aldrachi, covered both hero talents. Next we're going to cover some of your utility. Still have our sigils, you know, we only have one charge. Most of the time, not playing Sigil of Chains, you can drop this for Sigil of Chains if you need to, but there are a couple cool things you can do with your Sigil. So for Sigil of Silence, generally you want to use this after people's interrupts are on cooldown. I know like a lot of demon heads are like, ooh, I can just silence the whole pack and solo it. But realistically, the pack is not going to die in your one Sigil of Silence that lasts 6 seconds. So usually what it looks like is you'll go into a pack, everyone will use their kicks, and then after the kicks are on cooldown, you use Sigil of Silence to make time for kicks to come back. Also, you can combo Sigil of Silence with Oppressing Roar from Evoker. So if you're playing with an Evoker, try and get them to Oppressing Roar before you use Silence. For Sigil of Misery, it's kind of has a really long cooldown. Even if you take Improved Sigil, it's going to have a 1 minute 30 cooldown. We only have one charge, and we almost never play Cycle anymore. So it has a really long cooldown. Generally, you can use this as an AoE stop, but only like in emergencies because it's such a long cooldown. It is, however, very useful for skips. So if the whole pack is CCable, you can Sigil of Misery the pack. I don't really have any mobs here to test it on, but you can Sigil of Misery the pack, and then your group walks past it. Once everyone's past it, you walk through and Shadow Meld, and then the pack will be free, but no one will be in combat, so it's a skip you can do. We also have Chaos Nova, just in your standard AoE stun. With Chaos Fragments, you can kind of use Chaos Nova as a defensive filler because we're playing Feed the Demon. So let's say you like notice like, oh no, I have no sigil, I have no spikes, no sigil flame, I'm about to get completely trucked. What you can do is you can stun the pack, so that's like 2 seconds where you don't need any defensives because the pack's not autoing you, and then also it's generating a bunch of souls from Chaos Fragments, which will give you Demon Spikes back, which can also give you Thrill of the Fight. Next thing you talk about Darkness. So in the War Within, Darkness is extremely powerful because most of the heal checks are not one-shot checks, they're actual heal checks, so people are taking like ticking damage instead of getting one-shot. Against one-shots, Darkness is kind of unreliable because you just put it down and then they have a 30% chance to live. No one's really going to be comfortable with that. But on ticking damage, let's say you're taking like 10 ticks of damage, on average Darkness is probably going to proc like on 3 of them, but it's super unlikely that it's actually completely useless. So Darkness is a lot more reliable if you're dying from ticking damage. So Darkness is very useful in the group. Also do note that it drops on yourself, so if I wanted to use it on the mage, I'd have to jump on him first, then drop it. Darkness is also very useful as a personal cooldown. If you're fighting trash, like almost all trash is like not one-shotty, especially for a demon hunter. So it is kind of reliable as a defensive cooldown on trash, even though it has a 3-minute cooldown. Do keep that in mind. For mobility, there is one thing that people usually miss, which is gliding. A lot of people try to do this when they move around. They'll like double jump glide, and then actually like stay gliding, double jump glide and stay gliding. So this does make you move faster than a normal person, but it does not make you move as fast as possible as Vengeance or any demon hunter. So the thing that actually moves you faster is pushing the action of pushing the glide button. So what you want to do is get as many glides per second as possible. You do that with single jump glide, then you land, single jump glide, then you land, single jump glide, then you land. This is actually a lot faster than double jump glide, so do keep that in mind. Glide can also be used to cancel knockbacks, so if something's knocking you, you can glide to cancel it. Note that glide, as we mentioned, does propel you forwards, so sometimes that can change like the way you have to face, so mobs don't hit you in the back. If you're not comfortable gliding, you can always just Infernal Leap. Alright, so that is the gameplay guide for Season 1, War Within. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions or you want to tell me I'm stupid about something, then feel free to catch me on Twitch chat. Peace out.